Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. Tuesday edition, a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. Go check them out, folks. Fine jewelry, watches, and much more. It's family owned and operated with the largest selection of natural diamond jewelry. You go in there and browse around looking for some Valentine's Day stuff. They'll just hook you up with a little gift card to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. It's Tuesday. We'll have Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show, and then we'll also have Mike Morgan from the SEC Network, talk a little SEC hoops, Gators, and much, much more. Let's get right to it. Let's go to the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tip, late night talk show host for the Gators, Buddy Martin. Good morning, buddy. How you doing?
Morning from the David Letterman Studios here in Northwest Florida. Shane, you ever come up Northwest Florida very much up this way in Panama City and Pensacola and what have you?
Do I ever go that way?
Did you? Have you been up here much? Going to home to Mississippi, you got to be going through here every now and then.
Yeah, I love the Destin.
Yeah.
Fort Walton Beach. I love all that.
Yeah, there's really some nice little places there. Did you know, not to digress, there's a place here called Rosemary Beach, not far from here, where there's all kind of superstar people who own homes, including the Mannings. And I mean, there's just tons of people who own, not where I live, but anyway.
A lot of the country music guys, artists have places there for sure. Yeah. So,
what do you think of Beyonce winning the country album of the year, Shane?
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's so rigged, buddy. First of all, I've never heard her one song, and I'm a diehard country guy. I've never heard her stuff played anywhere.
Yeah,
it's bull crap. That's all I can say.
She's pretty good, I will say.
Well, she's very talented, but not in that genre.
Yeah. Well, Taylor Swift won it a few years ago too.
Well, she started as country.
Yeah, she did. You're right.
Yeah.
So your country music now, Shane. I will say that. Two things.
I mean,
quarterbacks and country music. That's basically about it. Oh, maybe Mississippi sports.
Well, if you want to live like low key life and not have it just chills you out. Maybe the Gator Nation needs to listen to more country music.
Yeah, well, that's that kind of that LA. Shane, can you tell me what the Panhandle is?
Huh?
You know what the Panhandle is. You know where the Panhandle is.
You're living in the Panhandle, buddy.
Okay. Now, where's Big Bend start?
Big Bend starts that Perry, Tallahassee area right there down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's such a diverse area. I'm starting a podcast monthly called the Panhandle Podcast about people. Steve Spurrier's son-in-law lives here in Amy. His daughter live here in Panama City. There's a lot of people who live around. There's a bunch of football fans, particularly Auburn, Alabama, as you know, fans, and it's diverse. And it's not all FSU, not all Florida. There's a lot of other people. It's an interesting part of the country. I never spent much time. I've lived up here in that pretty much for over a year. I'm learning about things, learning more about things. Florida's a diverse state. Anyway, I just thought about this, how unusual. There's so many things we don't know, like when Billy Napier stopped for donuts in Milton, the Milton Modern Bakery. It's apparently a famous place. I didn't know it. And when you want to talk about local places, it's your local bars and it's your local bakeries. You can't get a good donut out of those chains. You got to go to the local places. Where was the place in Pascagoula that you went for donuts? Or wherever it was?
Well, I think people forget. I only grew up in Pascagoula for 2 years.
That's true.
I mean, I was up in the North Mississippi in the Delta, Cleveland. But it's funny you say that because one of my dad's assistant football coaches, who was our head basketball coach, his family owned the local donut shop in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many chocolate donuts as a kid I used to eat. While they were at the donut shop. Talking ball, and I was just pounding.
Well, cops love. It's not a cliche. They do. My stepson is a sheriff here But I
Yeah.
mean, I'd like to go get the local knowledge of all the local donut places. Like this place in Ocala called Tastios. They've been there for years, started years ago, and you go there and they put they put the fresh baked donuts up in the window, and you point to them like this, and they do them one time and they're gone, done, finished, and everybody knows Tastios. So one day we'll do a donut show, okay?
Donut show. All right. All right, buddy. So we'll talk a little basketball here in a second, but we talked on your show last night about Coach Napier, who has pretty much come out and stated that he will call the plays. I am not surprised one bit. I know a lot of the Gator Nation is upset about it. I don't know why they can't control what happens with the football program. And maybe he should hire one, maybe he shouldn't. I mean, just because you hire somebody does not mean things are going to change or get any better. Uh, just your thoughts on all of it.
Worked out pretty well for Chip Kelly, I'd say. You got $3 million a year now to go to the Raiders. I'm going to go with you. You're my QB guy. You're my guy. You've been telling me school this been on this a long time ago. Don't get hung up in who's calling the plays. As you have told me, everybody on the staff calls plays. And as you told me, Billy is never going to give it up. And you're right. He never has given it up. He's head faked it a few times. He's told people he's thinking about getting a new offensive coordinator. But reality, as you say, what does the title mean? Nothing. I mean, Rob Sale, the offensive line coach, is the offensive coordinator, quote unquote. Okay. He's given him that title. Why, I don't know, but he chose to. Fine. I'm not hung up on it. I do think it's important to know who is involved, but Billy makes it, he doesn't want to make it known. He always spreads it around 4 or 5 people. We talked about some guys last night. The latest story that I guess came out of Bone 3 and Zach Abelverde talking about who is calling plays. And some of those guys they say calling plays I'd never heard of, and Shane, you hadn't either. So I don't know how much.
What was that guy's name, buddy?
Let me find it here. So we know, of course, Russ Callaway. Hold on, I got it right here. There's 3 guys. This guy was a former Green Bay coach. I'd never heard of him. Let me find it here. Russ did a great job. We know about Ryan O'Hara. He's very quiet. He became a quarterback coach. I guess he's done a pretty good job.
He's been coaching quarterbacks a long time.
Yeah.
At different places, and he has a good relationship and coaches those guys up pretty well.
John Donovan.
Yeah, John Donovan. He's been here ever since Billy's been here. I don't even know him. I'm gonna try to meet him, I guess, one day when I go to practice.
You should. I mean, you are one of the most important.
They don't give a damn, buddy. They don't care.
But the fans do because they know that you know football. You know the Gators and you know quarterbacks. Why wouldn't you? And you're my QB guy. So he was the analyst, the Green Bay Packers in 2022. Spent 4 seasons with the Jaguars. We didn't even know that. 4 seasons with the Jaguars, okay? Not exactly a resume builder. And served as offensive coordinator at Penn State. Did you know that? Penn State.
No, I didn't even know who the guy was until you mentioned
Washington and Vanderbilt. We don't even know this guy.
Yeah. Well, as I said on your show last night, I'll reiterate. Play calling, and I've said this on my show multiple times, Billy does not, or it doesn't matter who the play caller is, they don't go lock themselves in a closet or in their office and just put a plan together. They sit at a big boardroom with a big grease board, multiple grease boards on the wall with film running, and they have somebody, a GA sitting up there writing down, okay, what are we going to do on 1st and 10? What are the percentages? What are the tendencies? And everybody is talking about what they like, what they see. And then they put the plan together. They take stuff out, add more stuff, and then they all have input on it. And then on game day, there are multiple times, and I said this on your show, buddy, that teams that I played on, that I coached on, I was a starter, I was the backup, I was the 3rd guy, whatever it may be, the play caller's on the headset because as in the NFL, all the quarterbacks are listening to what's being said, right? He can say, if Buddy Martin is my wide receiver, Buddy, what do you like on this 3rd and 6 right here? What play do you think we should go to? Or, hey, O-line coach, give me your best run. It's 3rd and 2. Everybody, that's how play calling works. Now, ultimately, the guy that makes the call is the guy that signals it in or says it into the quarterback's earpiece.
Right.
But it's a collective effort. And even Coach Spurrier, you got to remember, he had multiple coaches that were with him for his everywhere he went, pretty much, right? Carl Franks, he had Jimmy Ray Stevens, he had Dwayne Dixon, all right. He had Bubba, his son, at South Carolina. They all had input to what the plan was. So anyway, Tony says Donovan coached Bortles with the Jaguars. Oof.
Bortles, there's a name for you. Wow, I forgot about him
Blake
completely.
Bortles.
Yeah. So you're right, but here's the appearance of it, though, is that the public thinks it's the guy who's in charge
Well,
who makes the final decision.
Right, but that is true. But again, and I want to take Florida out of this whole mix. Let's use Will Muschamp. Would you say Will Muschamp was a very good football coach or no?
Defensive coach, yeah, I'm not a big
I think
fan
he
of
was.
his
I think
offense.
he is one of the greatest defensive minds we've seen in my lifetime.
Okay.
He was here, what, 3 or 4 years as the head
Yeah.
coach? He had
Should
a
have been a
different
success. Should have been a successor.
he had a different offensive coordinator every freaking year
Why is that?
because they think we need to change offensive coordinators.
There you go.
It just but the reason I'm bringing that up is just because you hire somebody else does not mean it's going to be fixed or get better. Maybe it's the right
They're
way
kind of
to
like
do it.
vice presidents. You say, you really don't know who they are, but you bring them aboard to make it look good, and you're the guy that he's for window dressing. I hear what you're saying, but there is Steve Spurrier. He appears to be far above the people, the head leader of the pack, and there's something about seeing a head coach on the sideline with his quarterback holding him to his collar, talking to him during the lapses in play, and having a plan. It seems like Steve Spurrier was a cut above. He was a cut above. It seemed like he always knew he had the yin, their yang. He had the answer. Whether it's true or not, it felt that way.
He also liked to take chances, and some coaches aren't like that. And
That's
there's nothing
true.
wong with it.
That's true. But the thing about Billy, the other thing you have to remember is he's the guy who got the quarterback.
Yeah, people
we
remember
love
that.
so much, DJ Lagway. It's his offense that they're running.
And again, you don't want the young guy to have to learn another offense.
Right. And you don't want to change him out. And so if you think you want him to change play callers, well, it ain't going to happen. It's his team, it's his offense, his quarterback. He might get other people's to help you, as you point out, a consensus. Everybody has that. But it's going to be his team and his play calling. So get over it, folks.
Mark says Billy's a run-oriented coach. If he threw it around like Spurrier, he would get less grief. I agree with that 100%. Baron71 says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, Muschamp issue was that he needed so many OCs because he does not know good offense. I disagree with that.
I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree with it. He does know what
he knows what good offense
I know,
is,
but
he
it wasn't
hired
his thing.
He made bad hires. I mean, Charlie Weiss was not a good hire, but Charlie
I
Weiss
thought it was a horrible hire.
Okay, so then they go get this Brent Peace guy. Then they go get I don't even remember who all they are. But again, I've said it multiple times on this program. If the Gator Nation had a choice, give me a list of people. Nobody can give me a list, buddy. Right?
No, you're right, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
Who's got the magic? Who's the magic guy? Who's you going to bring in?
And it could be Coach X. Coach X gets here and doesn't do a damn thing. Okay. It's a horrible hire. Then they're blaming Billy. So if I'm the head coach, I'm going to go down swinging, doing it my way.
Having said that, what would you change about the offense if you were calling the play? They were running. What would you do more? Throw the ball deep more. You said that 100 times.
They throw the ball deep a lot.
They are now. They are now. They weren't back when you first started talking about it.
I would. Here's what the offense, and a lot of this has to do with the quarterback. If I'm playing against the Florida Gators, I'm going to try everything I can to play zone defense. Now, playing zone defense, you got a chance to. That means you don't have as many guys in the box, so the run game could be wearing you out. So when you're wearing a defense out running the football, what do? They go man covers, bring extra people in the box area, right, to try to stop the run. Now that's when Florida goes play action and they throw the deep crosses and the deep post.
Yeah.
And that's a one read and one read only. You don't have to think.
Yeah, okay.
But if we find a team that can play the front four, front six, can manhandle us in the running game, we're going to have trouble throwing it because we don't, when I say we, last year we were not very good at throwing against zone coverages because you have to read and you have to anticipate and throw in those windows. And DJ struggled with that. That's a fact. He's very good at a lot of stuff and he could get better. But again, Billy wants to run the football. Again, Notre Dame. Do I think Florida's offense is better than Notre Dame's? Absolutely. It's not even close. They play for the national title, people. Their formula is kind of like what Billy wants to do. Play good defense, run the football. But they just got a ton of turnovers to allow them to play for the national title. And plus, they didn't play any. They have a terrible schedule.
I thought we had, not to digress this your program here, but I thought we had a fascinating conversation last night about you and I and friends about how offensive football has evolved. And I took you back to Miles Davis and the run and shoot, and we talked about that a little bit. You got some interesting things to say. There's some principles off that they're really still today are used in terms of sort of having the wide receiver empowered to kind of do an audible. You know, wide receivers are able to, you based on what the wide receiver sees and what route he runs. It's a fascinating concept. Sid Gilman, France brought him up. He's kind of the godfather of the passing game for the West Coast. FSU copied the Sid Gilman model back in the day. Florida actually got their pass game back in those days, originally in the 60s, from FSU. Some of the guys who ran it there, Don Coryell back out in the – anyway, so the sort of – migration of the offensive football game. Now, when you were growing up, or when you started following Mississippi football, who was the big offensive guy, Shane? Who was the guy you followed?
When I was a young kid growing up, I wanted to play at BYU.
Yeah,
because of Lavelle Edwards. They threw it around.
Threw the ball around a bunch. One of Natty throwing the ball around a lot. And had some good quarterbacks. Jim McMahon, don't forget. So it was the Bears star. So anyway, but right now today, who is the guy? Who's the godfather of offensive football? Who's the guy that, you say, is it air raid? What is the concept that people get so more mesmerized about today?
Most people are doing a lot of the zone read stuff. Not zone read, I mean the RPO stuff. A lot of air raid teams are still out there with different principles in them. There's something good about all of them, actually.
Yeah. Why is the RPO that different than what even the triple option was back in the day? Whatever. I mean, isn't it based on the same principle?
It is, but the ball's being thrown forward, whereas the triple option, it was always being pitched backwards.
Great point. I've never heard that before.
But again, it comes down to, will the officials call linemen downfield or not?
Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of those.
Yes. Question here from Zach on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Did Steve Spurrier Jr. join the staff? I thought I read that. It's not been official. He's not joined it yet.
We expect that will happen. We hope it will happen.
Yeah, but I'm sure Bubba's also probably looking for a real coaching job and not an analyst job too, somewhere as well.
Well, I'm going to share a little private note with you. I hope Coach wouldn't mind. When I talked to him about Bubba some time ago, he said maybe they've been Bubba to go off on his own a long time ago, But he said, and I can understand this, having a son who works with me, he wanted to work with his dad. Why wouldn't you want to work with Steve Spurrier if you could, right? So he's got a lot of knowledge in that head about football, whatever. I think Bubba's a good guy. Bubba knows he's from football family royalty. I hope it comes to fruition. I'd love to see him come here for a while. And it makes me feel good to have a Spurrier name on the coaching staff.
Whenever Meyer wanted to introduce his high-quality tequila to the Gator Nation, made sure to let it get to the HBC and his team at Spurs Gridiron Grill and Dorn's Liquors. Go beyond with smooth Los Linderos tequila. Go check them out at Spurs Gridiron Grill. Okay, so enough of that. I mean, look, Gators won the last 4 games. They got a lot of momentum going into the all season. Like I said on your show last night, buddy, everybody that watches this program and listens to this program loves the Gators just as much as I do. Just remember, people, there ain't a damn thing you can do about decision making and what the team does. That's simple.
Trust your coach, I guess, right?
Yeah. and root for your team. Things don't work out. It's just like I said in basketball. Everybody's so upset about how we play. We didn't show up with any, uh, grit. We didn't come ready to play. I disagree with that 1000%. That's what everybody says when you lose a game, right, buddy?
Yeah, it's true, but there's one difference. This was the all-time worst shooting night in the history of
Okay,
college
but remember,
Florida basketball.
it was a 3-point game at halftime.
And I understand all that, but it was a terrible shooting night for the game. It was
Okay, well
terrible.
that happens. That
Yeah.
happens. It happens a lot.
Not the worst shooting game in history that
Well,
happened.
somebody's going to have the worst game in the history of the program, and we had it
you
the
wouldn't
other day.
expect it from a team that had been going so well and winning so much. We talked about it. The scheduling last night. You brought a good point. I hated when they were playing so good they have to take a week off. You see what happens to them now. Maybe that had nothing to do with what happened, the injury and all that stuff. It seems like you could break your momentum. I've seen team after team after team do it. They started laying guys off or they're not skipping games, whatever. They didn't do that, but they had to have a break in the schedule. And it definitely was a different team on the court of Thompson Bowling while we've been used to watching.
Text on the Titanmore text line. Kevin says, "Can we rush the field when we beat Texas?" Yeah, why not? Texas will probably be the number 1 or number 2 team in America, I would think, when they come here. I haven't looked at their schedule.
Arch coming to town, man. Arch coming to the swamp. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be probably the highest price. Now, again, we don't play them till late in the year, so I think it's going to depend on what our record and their record is. But if both
it's
teams
going to be good. They're both going to be good. Texas is picked to win it. Florida's going to lose no more than 4 games.
Yeah, but we don't know when we don't know what I'm saying, buddy, is if both teams are in the hunt, that could be the highest price ticket we've ever had.
Could be. And might be. Yeah. How much are you looking forward to watching Arch play?
I think Arch is pretty good.
Did you see the interview yet that he had with Marty Smith?
I did not.
Do yourself a favor and call it up and watch part of it. You talk about, I was already impressed with the guy, but looking at this kid, how he carries himself. First of all, he's a good-looking kid. Secondly, he's smart. Thirdly, he's humble. And he says, I haven't done anything yet. He won't anybody else wants to be one of the guys. But what separates him out, other than his gene pool, being a Manning, is that he is a heck of a runner. And that could change that whole RPO thing with Shark quite a bit. Ability to run the football, which is something that Ewers didn't have.
Yeah, I think they don't. I mean, they'll call a few runs with Arch, but not a lot, I don't think.
Oh, he ran the ball quite a bit in the pass up there. He's running a lot.
Yeah, Dan says on Facebook Live, bro, Tebow's last game versus FSU was the highest price ticket. Yeah, because of Tebow, but FSU was god awful. I'm talking about because you have potential of 2 really good teams with 2 really good quarterbacks.
Yeah, what was the biggest home game for you ever when you played there? In terms of importance and trying to take a price.
Wow, buddy, I don't
Probably
know.
all we went all the way up to 30 or 40 bucks.
We couldn't sell our tickets back in those days, so I wouldn't know. Barone71 on YouTube, brought to you by Co-op, says the running QB evolved because of lazy coaching. Easier to let your best athlete run around in high school and even more college games rather than teach them how to actually read defense and pass quick and precise. I agree with that, Barone.
I think Barone's coached the ball somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the RPO game is great if your guy can actually read and throw and stuff, but if they're high school coaches, it starts there. A lot of their job is to try to win games, and some of them don't know a whole lot of balls. So what they do, they put their best athlete quarterback, say, go make me look good.
Sure. I understand that. We're trying to be successful. I want to get your comments before we go off the air about people saying, well, you haven't seen DJ Lagway really because he's been hurt. Is he hurt? How much is that holding him back? And will they give him more chances to carry the ball this fall, this offense?
Does he what now? Say that again.
I said there's a lot of talk about him still being injured, DJ Lagway. They've never gotten over it. But we know he missed part of the season with an injury. He hasn't carried the ball that much, but when he does carry it, it's effective. If he's better, do we expect to see more RPOs than carrying the ball in this new offense?
Possibly. I think he's a better thrower than he is a runner, personally. I think he's a good runner. Wouldn't say he's great, but he can keep a defense honest. I just don't think I don't think they're going to call a bunch of quarterback design runs. Now he's going to scramble when things aren't open, which is fine, but they're not going to drop back and call quarterback powers, or they may call a few zone reads and some RPOs, but I'll be surprised. That's just I could be 100% wrong, but I don't see him being this phenomenal runner.
Yeah, but he'd be more than what Mullen used to call a willing runner, right? He can carry the football, and there will be a few design plays. I'd just be anxious to see. By the way, they got the new quarterback in Harrison Bailey. You told me about him. I'd forgotten about him playing in the past. Will he be the backup?
Yes. He's an old guy, played at 4 different schools, and he's kind of the perfect type of backup in today's football. I don't know what we're paying him, but he'll be ready to play because he's had some experience. Buddy, who you got on your program tonight?
Well, tonight it's going to be Lauren Meadows and Rob Brown, the guys doing. I'll pop in for a minute. They'll talk a lot of hoop, I'm sure. The women's basketball Lady Gators had a huge win last night.
Yeah,
congratulations to them. Record high of 112. What, they 108 points, was it? They're a mystery team. I hope they get better. They got to get another level up to play. But no, we'll talk a little bit basketball. Obviously, we'll talk some. Billy's got a press conference tomorrow. I'll be interested to see what he's got to say after he gets the total on the final portal numbers, what have you. I don't know if anybody new coming in is a player. We'll see how that goes.
Don't forget, tomorrow's National Signing Day.
It is National Signing Day. You know what? Yeah. Remember those days?
Yeah.
This is the biggest thing going. I mean, Florida won't sign. Who will they sign? Nobody, right?
Yeah.
There's no scholarships left.
All right, buddy. Appreciate your time. We're going to switch over and talk a little hoops with Mike Morgan.
Tell Mike hello for me. Thank you very much, Shane.
That's the great Buddy Martin. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Quick timeout. Come back. We'll talk a little SEC and Gator hoops with Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Bishop's Pitmaster Barbecue, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Cogent Bank, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Sign, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the International Diamond Center Studios. Florida Cracker is the brand for original Floridians. Great food and southern hospitality in the center of the universe. Brooksville, Florida, FloridaCracker.com. Back to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, and it's our man Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Good morning, Shane. Good morning, PodUp Nation. Okay, this is just for me and the PodUp Nation out there. I think everybody, part of the joy of this show is to watch you get a little hot under the collar. So let me, the first question I'll have for you before we get into the myriad of things you want to talk about. Hey, Shane, what's the latest on the offensive coordinator situation? I'll hang up and listen.
Look, I just don't know what people want to be done, Mike. Mike, let me ask you this, because I think you think Billy needs offensive coordinator, and I understand that. But I'm going to ask Mike Morgan, who knows ball, who should he hire? That's where I want people to get. Tell me who to hire.
That's where it all stops, right?
Right.
Because you mentioned when Will Muschamp was there, and you're right. Will Muschamp defense. Say what you want, and one thing Gator Nation and Gamecock Nation have in common, they both have a level of disdain for Will Muschamp and what he did or didn't do during his time as head coach. And truth be told, it wasn't that bad at either place. I mean, we've seen worse, right, in Gainesville, and they've seen worse in Columbia than what Will Muschamp did. But I remember me and Chris Doring, this was before the SEC network officially launched, I think, in 2014. We used to do these SEC syndicate games, and Chris and I went there like 3 straight years to do a Gator game on television when Will Muschamp was a coach. And to your point, 3 straight years was a different offensive coordinator. And he ran into the same thing in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. I think it was like a different offensive coordinator almost every year, and none of them worked. So at some point, the problem is Will Muschamp not picking the right offensive coordinator. But to your point, it's real easy to say, okay, I want an offensive coordinator, but who are you going to take? Because for every Chip Kelly, and that just happened to work, and of course he's already gone. He's basically a 1-year rental for Ohio State. There's a lot of guys that simply do not work. And then there's also it's kind of like if you were a defensive coordinator at Nick Saban, you weren't running your defense, you were running Nick's, right? You were DC in title, but you did everything. And the same thing with Kirby at Georgia. What you do is in the framework of what Kirby wants. For example, if you're an offensive coordinator at Georgia, you're not spreading it and running all over and 11 personnel and throwing it forward. That's not what Kirby wants. So if you're an offensive coordinator and you go to Athens, you write a scheme and plays that fit within what he does, what he wants you to do offensively. And the same thing, if Billy does hire a guy, and I understand where the fans are coming from. I get it. Like there's just the feeling today, Shane, that now more than ever, where football is so it's delegated. Like you do this, but you do that. It is rare for a head coach to also call plays. So if you do both, you better be damn good at it. Mm-hmm. But whoever would get that job is still going to do what Billy wants. It's not going to like, yeah, you're the OC, so I'll just stand over here like Bobby Bowden used to do at Tallahassee. And the coordinators did everything. No. Billy's going to have his fingerprints all over that scheme and what you do. So that's something to keep in mind if and when he ever does hire a guy. I'm not sure if it's going to look that different.
Yeah. So if somebody I said, give me a name, and I love this name, but you're living in La La Land.
What's the name?
Joe Brady. He coaches Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. Oh, Joe's days. I mean, he was great at LSU in 2019. Yeah. We all know that.
Yeah.
And then he went to the Panthers, and nobody does anything positive with the Panthers. But he's on fire right now in Buffalo. That's Josh Allen's boy. He ain't going anywhere. You're not leaving a high-profile NFL job like that to OC in college.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Gators. Tennessee ran into a buzzsaw in the second half. Just didn't play well. I mean, it happens, Mike. I mean, you play basketball. You call these games all the time. Even though you're playing real well, it's not like you got shut down by a bad basketball team. You're still a top 10 team we played. They were missing some starters. Things didn't go well, kind of snowballed, and we got blown out. Move on. That's how I look at it.
Shane, you're a big golf guy. This is where football and basketball differ. I think in basketball, with the exception of maybe Auburn this year, everybody in an 18-game conference grinder, and by far and away the number one conference in college basketball, is going to get a mulligan. Is going to get one of those games, but it's usually on the road, where nothing goes right, you don't hit shots, you turn it over, and you get smoked, and you run into a buzzsaw, which is what Tennessee was. Tennessee, obviously, there was a little revenge on the minds of Vol Nation on what happened in Gainesville, where they got completely embarrassed. And then Tennessee's trying to remind people, hey, we're really good too. Like, we're a top 10 team here too, because every now and then they just have these disappointing losses where the offense does not produce. That's going to be, if Rick Barnes doesn't get farther in the NCAA tournament this year or sooner, that fan base is going to turn and say, well, our offense is never good enough to get to the Final Four. So again, it's one game. I'm not concerned about Florida at all. When they're healthy, it's still a Florida team that has all the ingredients to make a deep tournament run. Last year, they didn't make that run because they didn't defend worth a lick. I think they've improved much better in that area. The offense is still one of the top. Any ranking you look at, Ken Palm, efficiency, shooting percentages, assist-to-turnover ratio, all the key numbers, they're great, but they had a bad mulligan night. I wouldn't sweat it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Your thoughts on what Arkansas did at Rupp Arena?
There's two ways of looking at this, okay? Number one would be, wow, Cal just reminded everybody, hey, he's a pretty damn good coach and good for him. And, a bit of a flex for Calipari and Cal Nation. The other way to look at it, the way I look at it, and I like Cal. I've covered him for years. He's awesome with the media. So we all love him, which is why he gets very favorable press coverage, I think, overall. But the other way of looking at that is where the hell has this been all year long?
Yeah.
Like they got talent. You saw it. They got a bunch of dudes, and they're not all just 19-year-old freshmen like Cal. A lot of his teams that would be disappointing. Well, they're just too young, and Cal hadn't evolved. No, a lot of those guys were transfers. They're best players that were already college players at Kentucky. And then they get a Janelle Davis in the portal from FAU. Like, they're not too young. They do have a ton of talent. They showed it in the non-con, and then they completely spit the bit in January in SEC play. So the question becomes now, okay, are you going to show this the rest of the year, or did your guys just get up to play and win one for the Gipper against your old school in Lexington? That to me is the million-dollar question.
A couple of texts here from Tony on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. He says he loves Mike's dark mahogany cabinets. And he wants to know, what is Mike's worst intramural basketball loss?
Oh, those are two questions I did not expect today, and I love both of them. Yes, the dark mahogany, I can't take credit for that. Credit Mrs. Morgan for the whole kitchen design, and I appreciate that. We'll see if we'll call up Good Housekeeping, see if we can get a photo shoot. The worst intramural loss. Honestly, we didn't have a whole lot. We had a pretty good squad back in the day, but I think we lost it in a title game one semester. I think we'd play like two semesters, the fall and spring. But yeah, we had a tough one. But other than that, I still feel good about our winning percentage, about our run back in the day, Shane. I do.
There you go. Gators have Vandy tonight. I don't know if I've seen Vandy play this year. I do know that I was flipping through the channels and I saw the score pop up Saturday. They were up like 14 in the first half at Oklahoma. And then I see the final and they lose by 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can you tell us about Vandy?
I've had him a couple times. I'll have him again on Saturday against Texas, which I think will be a really sneaky good under the radar game, because I think Texas is starting to come alive. And Trey Johnson, if you want to know what a 4-star, 5-star lottery pick looks like, that's Trey Johnson of Texas. He's special. But no, Vandy, I think Coach Byington has done one of the best coaching jobs in America. And I say that, and I'm not trying to be I don't mean this as a pejorative, but Vanderbilt, the sum is much greater than the parts. Like, they don't have anybody that is, all SEC caliber. Their best scorer is Jason Edwards, who's a transfer from North Texas, and he's a good player, but he's not like Walter Clayton. Their best big man is an undersized guy that wears number 99. Looks like he's like a spring training guy in McLaughlin. and he's like 6'7". So they don't have size. They're not overly athletic, but they're just really well coached and play really smart. They rarely turn it over. They just get after you. Like I think if you were to just if this were like a combine and we're grading the 16 SEC teams on pure talent, they might be last. But in terms of teams that know how to win and you don't want to play, they're right up there. They've done that good of a job with their first-year coach.
So do you think the Gators can bounce back? Will they bounce back tonight at home?
I would expect it. I like I said, you get one mulligan, you don't get back-to-back mullies. You know, that's what I try to do on the golf course, Shane, and that's when people like you are like, oh, geez, not this guy.
You can't do mulligans when you play with me, Mike.
Yeah, I figured as much.
We don't do mulligans.
We don't do mulligans.
If you suck, you just suck.
Well, that's where I'll be. I'll be in the just suck category as I shoot a 98 with you.
That's okay. Count them all. Like Coach Spurrier says, just count them all.
Just count them all. Hey, we're not playing for money. At least I hope not. No, I think the Gators bounce back. I don't think they have back-to-back performances like that. They're at home. The last time I had them, of course, was the Georgia game, and Florida at home with that crowd right now. When they play a clean game, they're a problem. I don't know if they'll lose another game at home all year. They'll lose. I'm sure another game or two on the road, but at home, I think Florida. Like that home court advantage is back. The games that I had this year, that the students were terrific. Like the O-Dome, it felt like the old school O-Dome. The Rowdy Reptiles felt like the old school Rowdy Reptiles. It was encouraging to see. And I just think that, Todd Golden's a good enough coach where he's going to use a game like that to his advantage. Like that, you got everybody's attention. You didn't just lose, you got crushed. Now that's a way to say, everybody's been telling us how good we are and we're a Final Four team. Obviously, we got to go back in the lab and we got to work on some stuff, dudes. Like this is not acceptable, and it all starts with Vanderbilt.
Question here for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melvin Law. Mike, who do you think is the best team in America?
Auburn.
Yeah.
I mean, Auburn is just they are suffocating on both ends. We always hear that term on defense, but the way they come after you offensively, I don't know if you have a game plan to slow them down. And it's, again, obviously Janai Broome is right up there. He'll be in the player of the year conversation. He's not like the physical freak of a Cooper Flagg who's going to be the number one pick in the draft. But for a college big man, he does it all. But they always have those undersized. Bruce Pearl loves undersized guards. He lives off them. All these guys that are just not real big and not physically imposing, but they're an absolute pain in the ass to play against. And then, they've got just guys that are a headache overall. I just forgot the big man's name. Baker
Mazar.
Yeah. I always screw that name. I don't like hyphenated names. Can we just get rid of the hyphenated name? But yeah, he's a problem. Like they're a royal pain. I think it's one of Bruce's best teams. I don't know if it's his most talented. Like Bruce has had some lottery picks. I don't think there's a lottery pick on that team, but they're just really good together. So yeah, I think there's three teams at the top: Auburn, Duke, and Alabama. I think those are the top three teams in college basketball. Now, I'm sure some of your audience are, what about Florida? Florida could easily be a Final Four team.
Yeah.
No question. They've got the ingredients to do that. I'm just telling you right now, those to me are the top three teams in the country.
Yeah, I agree. Watching Auburn play, to me, I feel like this year's a little bit different. I feel like he's got some guys that can actually, on a consistent basis, knock down three-pointers. He's always just had like athletes that were, they'd make a three here or there, but I feel like now he's got a couple. I think one of them's a freshman, Pettiford, maybe, I think his name. But yeah, Auburn to me is clearly the best team. Speaking of Cooper Flagg, Andy wants to know on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, do you think he will be the greatest one and done player in NCAA basketball history?
Whoa. the greatest one and done I mean, that's I don't know if I'm ready to go quite there. I mean,
You'd
you've
have to
got
do a lot of research on that.
well, yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, you've got Kevin Durant, you got Carmelo Anthony, who won a national championship as a one and doneer. Even people forget. I did a lot of his games. Even Ben Simmons at LSU, and they didn't win. In fact, guys didn't like playing with him. Ben was a little different, as we know now. He's really different, but he was top 5 in the SEC in scoring, rebounding, and assists. And I had our crack staff research that. No one had ever done that. No one has since ever done that, I don't believe, in the history of the SEC. But what Cooper Flagg is doing, he leads his team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. And oh, by the way, Duke is got a really good chance at a Final Four at a national championship. So if he can finish that with a great tournament performance, maybe he is. He is a freak. I've been hearing about this kid since he was like 15 in Maine, because a guy that I used to work with, he's got the formula. He lives in the South in the summer, and he lives in Maine in the winter. And he's like, Mike, there's this kid, Cooper Flagg. I said, Maine? There's no ballers in Maine. He was like, I'm telling you right now, he is a baller. And then I started seeing video clips of him. I was like, oh my goodness, that's a little bit different. And remember now, he's only 18. Yeah. 18 years. He just turned 18 like a month ago.
The Pouncey twins provide all of Gator Nation with the highest quality liqueurs made by J.F. Hayden Craft Liqueurs. Find your favorite flavors at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. A few more minutes with Mike Morgan. Mike, I want to get this day in sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. 2018 Super Bowl in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The Eagles defeat the New England Patriots 41-33. Your MVP is Nick Foles, Eagles QB. Speaking of that, I want to get your thoughts of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Who wins Sunday night?
I'm going to go upset here. I'm going to go against my ordinary feelings, which is you don't bet against Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid, and that's been pretty good to me overall. I just feel like they have been walking a fine line this year, and first off, the Bills got jobbed in that game, but that's a whole other story. I just think Philadelphia, if Barkley does what he is capable of, and they can go ahead and control it and just ground and pound, which is not easy because Kansas City's got a D line that can clog it up pretty good. But I love this Philadelphia run game. Jalen Hurts doesn't make many mistakes, and then their defense is good and opportunistic. I'll take Philly in an upset.
Wouldn't surprise me. Philly's roster is clearly better than the Chiefs roster.
I agree.
I'm just anxious to see what I am a big believer, and I don't watch the all 22 tape, just watching games on TV that, I don't have the NFL ticket, but anytime the Eagles play and you play zone defense against the Eagles and make Jalen Hurts read coverage, he struggles.
Right.
But that you have fewer guys in the box when you play zone coverage, and then they gas you with the run game with Barkley. So I want to see what Spagnuolo does. But boy, what the Chiefs are doing. I know people talk about the calls and all that. There is nothing different than when the Patriots did their run. Nothing. It's the same, in my opinion. Everybody hated the Patriots because they got all the calls.
Yeah.
They had the best player. Now the Chiefs had the best player. So we'll see. I think it's going to be
the best play caller.
Best play call.
Has there ever been a better?
No. Andy Reid's unbelievable.
Do you remember when people were trying to prop up Eric Bieniemy as the secret? It's like, are you serious? Do you guys really think Eric Bieniemy is the key to their offensive scheming and game plan? Eric Bieniemy, I think, recently got fired as a wide receivers coach.
But I think the Bears just hired him as the running backs coach.
Did they really?
I mean, I'm not 100% sure about that, but I thought I saw that.
I covered Eric when he was a coach with Colorado, and we used to do some Colorado games back in the day. He's a nice guy, but I just would laugh at that. Eric Bieniemy, how could you not hire this guy? He's the brains behind the Chiefs offense. No, it's that Andy Reid guy that's kind of the brain. Andy Reid will go down as one of the best play callers in the history of the game. I can't think of any better that have done it, Shane. I really can't. You were talking about Lavelle Edwards, and I'm right there with you, by the way. As a little kid watching those BYU teams, I was like, damn, he's doing stuff that nobody else is doing. And then Spurrier took it to another level. Like, they're on the Mount Rushmore of college football offensive minds. I don't think there's any question. But Andy Reid is at the top of that list when it comes to NFL, I would have to believe.
I agree 100%. And I don't know how long he plans to coach, but as long as him and Mahomes are together, they're going to be in the
Deadly.
hunt every year.
I know. I wish he would just retire. I want to see Mahomes without Andy Reid.
Without him, yeah.
Right? Like, we got to see that experiment, Brady without Belichick. I want to see Mahomes, who's terrific, but I want to see him without the benefit of Andy Reid just divide. And you notice, Shane, you probably pick up on this more than your average person. They're not throwing the ball downfield a bunch. It's a bunch of these little passes that rarely travel more than 5-10 yards, right? And they use the 53 horizontal yards on the field as well as anybody. And they're all these different formations. And I've always wondered this for guys like you and guys that play the game at that high a level, to retain all the different plays that Andy Reid comes up with. Because they rarely have like a formation penalty. They rarely have a pre-snap penalty, and they're always lining up different stuff and different gadgets and using wide receivers and tight ends in the backfield, and this guy's over. And I'm like, how do they remember all of that? Because Andy's always mixing it up.
He does, but it's I don't know, Andy. I'm assuming a lot of his terminology is West Coast stuff because that's kind of where he started under Bill Walsh,
Right.
Mike Holmgren, and all those guys. So it's basically the same play, but out of a different formation.
Right.
So,
Different wrinkles.
They just and today, as much as you meet and guys it's funny because most football players, they can learn an entire playbook. But if you sit them in some math class or whatever, they have no chance, right?
Right.
You can visualize what you're supposed to do. And you got to remember too, the only person that needs to know what all 11 guys do is the quarterback.
Right.
If you're the tight end or the X receiver, all you're doing is listening to one thing called, and that tells you what you're going to do. But
it
you're right.
gives you an idea. Mahomes has got to be.
He's sharp.
He's
sharp.
able to retain a lot of stuff. I imagine there are some quarterbacks that are very gifted that can't do all and process all that the way Mahomes
There's
does.
a lot of guys that are starting in the National Football League that they have to keep it very simple for them.
Right.
Good stuff as always, my friend. Let everybody know how they can listen to your podcast.
Yeah, so we got JC and Morgan today. In fact, we're recording it at 9. Tom Luganbill will join us. Tom was joking with me last night when we booked him that they're after I'm done with you, I got to fly to Bristol to talk about the other National Signing Day. Nothing goes on in the other National Signing Day anymore. No. It used to be like a huge deal that we would talk about all January, and we couldn't wait those last second faxes. Now it's like the hay's in the barn, man. Like there's barely anything left on the bone. But we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about when Luke's is on, we talk about just about everything, kind of like this show. But that's on every format. Again, it's free. It's on YouTube. It's on X and Spotify and all that good stuff. So that'll be later today. We'll start recording at 9:00.
And you're in Nashville this weekend?
I'm in Nashville this weekend for Vanderbilt, Texas. A team starting to climb up. Nashville? I love Nashville.
I love Nashville.
Nashville. Now, so you played the Titans, I'm sure, a number of times.
Yeah.
In Nashville.
Yeah.
Did you stay?
We always stay downtown. And again, you fly in, you have your meetings, and then you can either do the team dinner or you can go out on the town and do dinner. You got to be back for a late meeting. So it's not like, I'm a country music guy, so I love Nashville.
Yeah.
And then obviously when we play at Vandy, I go down to Broadway just to have fun. So
well, you guys could go you could break curfew by 5 hours and still whip Vandy by 40 when you played.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about now doing the broadcast.
Well, that too.
Yeah. All
You're
right,
so
Mike.
sharp.
Appreciate it, buddy. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. Join us on the Titan More Hotline courtesy of Comfort Temp. Rose Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right.